Hey everybody, Conscious Medium Brandon Ross. I'm back in the studio after a little brief hiatus down in Florida, just like a friend of mine right here. What could I possibly ever talk about right now? What could I possibly ever say about the astrology of, say, an indictment and a trip back to New York? What could I possibly come up with? All I know is that when I landed in Florida, an indictment came down. And when I came back, I brought somebody with me. Hang on a second. I think you guys are going to like the stream of consciousness. We're going to take a look at the chart for Surrender Day 4/4/23 for the former president, Donald J. Trump. Thanks for sticking around through my opening. This is a great time to remind you to like and subscribe and become a member. That helps me support the channel and do all this fun stuff on a regular basis. And by the way, comment below if you want me to do more of the traditional astrology, like when I talk about everybody's signs or risings or moons, because, you know, after all, later on this week, we've got Libra in full moon here. A lot of emotional relationship conversations going on. Redefining, restructuring, rebranding yourself in your relationships, kind of an important thing, super important thing. You can always book a reading with me, or you can come check me out live. I've got a bunch of dates coming up. I'm going to be in Oneida later this week on Saturday out by Syracuse. Can't wait for you guys. I've only got a handful of tickets left, and I've only got a bunch of books left, truth be told. I'm also going to be in Caroga Lake in the middle of the month, and I'm back down in Daytona, Florida at the end of the month, beginning of May. So I can't wait to see you guys. Everybody was so kind to me on the Gulf Coast, Tampa down to Sarasota. Thank you guys so much. Heart taps going out to you. Also, last but not least, I have two things coming up. I have on Wednesday night, you can click on the link below and join me. I'm going to be doing a live closed caption as I talk about my upcoming retreat in Mount Shasta later on this summer. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. If you want to find out more, just join the class. Just click on the link below. You're going to get the link about 10 minutes before it starts. It's completely free. We'll banter about what our spiritual goals are and where we're going to go with it. And the other thing is, towards the end of the month, I have a mediumship class. Now, I'm only allowing a certain amount of people in. You've got to get in beforehand. My students, my current students actually have had first crack. They've left a handful of seats open, not many. So there you go. Go ahead and go get it. Bunch of clicks below. Let's talk about the man in orange, figuratively, literally. It was really eye-opening to me when I went to Florida, because up in New York, we kind of have this perception of, like, or anywhere else in the country, this perception of what's going on with Florida, right? First of all, Florida has an influx of 1,000 people a day to their state. That's 7,000 people a week. That's 28,000 people. That's 28,000 people a month. Go ahead and do the long math, carry the one. You're talking about 300,000 people a year going to Florida right now. You have an influx of all sorts of people and everything else, right? I've been to Florida maybe 3 times in the past year and a half, and every single time it was all about Trump this, Trump that. The fatigue is set in. And by the way, I'm not saying that people don't support Trump. They're tired of talking about it. And you know what? I'm okay with that, but this is how you start to see somebody lose their steam. And again, those of you that have watched this, you've got cringeworthy parts of this on both sides of it. Sometimes I say things that are cringeworthy because I'm actually pulling for them to figure it out. And then it's cringeworthy because, but if you're on the other side of the coin where I'm like, yeah, this is kind of coming and this guy's going to be held accountable. Let's take a look at the chart for this day, 4/4 for Mr. DJ T. All right, guys, here we go. So taking a look at what's going on here, and by the way, I blew it up. I started, making circles. Show prep is a thing, everybody. I take a few minutes because I care about you. So in this 11th house, and by the way, the 11th house is about the community. It's the Aquarian energy. It is the, hey, everybody, let's do this for the greater good. He's kind of sadistic here Donald J. Trump has sadistic placements, and I'm going to show it to you here in a second. With the ascending sitting over both Saturn and Venus, it's a time of great like self-assurance, confidence, pleasure, right? The basis of everything that he does in his natal chart, sitting here on the inside in Cancerian, is pleasure, which, by the way, you can read into that if you want. Cancerian being the sign of family, blah, blah, blah. In other words, he kind of plays the pawn game with his kids, with his wives, with whatever around him. Then you have this Mars placement over Mercury, which means that you're super passionate. You're empowered to speak your truth and have your actions be ta-da. By the way, that's nothing new for him. But this kind of placement, though, makes him go ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. Oh, and ta-da. So look for him to be verbose and, quite frankly, take sheer pleasure in this indictment. He's kind of getting off on it. Sorry to be crude, but that's what he's doing. He does not care about what you think. He is, however, all about raising the money. Now we're going to take a look at that chart here in a second too. But one other thing I want to point out is pay attention, and don't forget my nickname for him, Captain Chaos. Don't forget that this Mars placement sitting here right on his ascending makes him a wild child. I don't give a rat's ass. I'm going to do what I please all the time. He has to create chaos. He wants to be known for the amount of verbose alpha male bullshit he can spew. He's not even really good at it. That's the funny part. Alpha males look at him and go, don't bring your B game to an alpha game, buddy. But what he is doing right now is one thing that Donald Trump has done, whether he's done it on purpose or not, and Penny and I have even spoken about it. By the way, Whiskey and Bagels is back later this week. Don't you worry. Penny took a little time. She needed to kind of recoup. I did a little traveling. We'll be back. Don't you worry. She and I are celebrating our year anniversary coming up here. It's kind of fun. We got a fun thing planned. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it's planned. He's designed to create chaos. So, of course, he's going to create chaos with his vanity, with his spotlight, with his, hey, what's for the greater good? No, no, no. What's for me? Now, let's take a look at this incredibly complex part of his chart, which is really, truly house-driven. Now, what do I mean by house-driven? The houses rule different aspects of our lives, right? The first house is about our self-identity. The second house is about our practicality, how we approach money, how we approach relationships. The third house is about communication. Fourth house is about family. Fifth house is about our creativity, yada, 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 right? By the way, start signing up for my email list as my classes start to unroll. And I think you're going to like how I handle how I connect with everyone with this. But anyways, taking a look at the house, look at all of this action in his ninth house. Let's start at the top and we'll work our way around. The ninth house is about education. It's about how you establish your faith. It's about travel. It's about how you kind of roll with the punches. It's about how you have your belief system and how you connect with things, right? Well, sitting right in here is Uranus. And by the way, most of this stuff has been going on while Uranus has been in his ninth house in Taurus. By the way, I have more on this later in the program. Remind me if I haven't brought it up, because I sometimes do that. But he's in conjunct with Venus, and here is Mercury. Well, Mercury is about how you say it in action and so forth and so on. He thinks he's right, period. There is nobody telling him anything else. He is influencing this ninth house, which is void, which is empty otherwise. He is talking about postulating about creating his own reality. You know how I know that? Take a look at the eighth house, everybody. Everybody's had an incredible opportunity over the last couple of weeks to have Jupiter conjunct with Chiron and discover how healing is going to happen, right? Chiron is conjunct with the sun still, and this is about enlightening on your own healing. You're actually making different decisions now. Maybe not better, but you're definitely making different decisions, right? This sitting here in his eighth house is all about other people's money. Hey, how's the fundraising going? When Jupiter moves out of the eighth house, I kind of sort of think he's screwed in terms of fundraising. But right now, he's still riding the wave. That's not right. Here's $100. Hey, do you remember in the mid to late 80s when all those shady preachers came out and they were complete grifters that they were? Yeah, a lot of Jupiter energy in the 8th house, just like Donald J right now. And by the way, they want to believe in the principles that he talked about. They look past all of the cosmic flaws, or the cosmetic flaws, I should say, that Donald Trump presents. Like, nobody in their right mind says, hey, that's really good that you treat women the way that you treat them. However, I really like what you said about the border. That's why he has support. It's the compartmentalization and the rationalization of this. Donald Trump has held up a mirror to this entire country, by the way. Who does that? By the way, if you're smart and you're on this channel, there's a pretty good chance you just raised your hand and go, I kind of do that. I don't mean to. Here we are. Boy, I need another haircut. The sun makes my hair grow. By the way, in case you didn't know I had a tan, look at that. Holy crap. I'm an Irish guy in the sun. It took 20 minutes. Anyways, back to the chart. So his 9th house is super active with all these opportunities of lessons. He's going to bulldoze them because he's going to ride the wave of self-righteousness. Taurus energy doesn't serve him very well here, but it's the timing of it, so be it. Right? Then you have the 8th house, sex, death, and taxes. And oh, by the way, of course he'd be in the middle of some sort of quasi-sex scandal. By the way, it's not really a sex scandal. By the way, he would have put this all to shame if he just said, you know what? I did that because I was worried. I'm so sorry that I did it. Here we go. What do I need to do to make amends? The DA probably would have said, we're going to give you a fine for self-whatever, but we did put somebody to jail, so we're going to tax you pretty heavily on this. Okay. And by the way, he gets out of paying shit all the time anyways. What a douche. Because he doesn't have to be this way. I mean, think about it. Does anybody ever play the game where, like, you say to yourself, what if I won $1 million? What if I won the lottery? Before you say another word, I want you to recognize that most people do 3 things, right? The first thing they do is they try and take care of everybody around them. For whatever reason, you feel that giving your brother-in-law an extra 50 grand is going to make his life better. All you've actually done is make him a codependent in your success. And then they become a drain. Sorry, I said it. The second thing they try and do is they do some sort of superfluous, oh my God, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to open up an animal sanctuary. Insert good deed here. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but they don't have the business chops to open one right now. So what makes you think that they would have the money? Unless you have a business plan ready to go, that's probably not the best option. Because the harsh reality is 4 out of 5 lottery winners end up bankrupt. My point being is that the last category here is that what most people do is they literally cocoon themselves and they selectively choose how they go about their money ventures. Less than 20% considering the statistic I just said. Donald Trump runs the gamut with how he spends and wastes energy. He uses the old Monsters Inc. rule. If I scare them, I will get their energy. Well, my friend, the grown-ups are here. Comedy, laughter, and how we look at things is much greater energy than you trying to scare the shit out of everybody. People are not specifically coming over the borders and killing people. It's just not happening. Are there select cases? There sure are. There are more corrupt politicians than there are non-documented immigrant worker murders per year. There, I said it. Hey, what's the real problem? The reason why I pull for somebody like Donald Trump is because I see in his chart from time to time, he really has an opportunity. By the way, it's usually the part where he goes quiet and he doesn't actually go truth social on everybody. But I want you to take a look and take a point of looking at the 7th house, Saturn in Pisces. Well, those of you that know that, and by the way, every astrologer worth their salt brings this up every video they make, right? This and Pluto going into Aquarius, although that can kind of be diminished a little bit because it is such a circumstantial thing where it's like a generational thing. You got to see how it plays out. But Saturn has a little more of a direct effect, right? Saturn is the stubborn one, the balancer, the one that kind of says, hey, this is concrete. Pisces is like, hey, let's play. Let's figure this out. Do you really mean it that way? Up is down, down is up. structures are not necessarily the way that it is. But in his personal chart, this is the redux cometh. He literally has to look at his norms and actually face them. Because once upon a time, he used to control everything. In Aquarius, he could say, I can misbehave. It's for the greater good. By the way, he led an insurrection during that time. Now, all of the tactics that he's had, having Saturn in Pisces, and I'm sorry if I'm redundant with this, but it's the only planet in the 7th house, the only influence here. Guess what 7 is? Relationships. Relationships would say, I don't know, family, lawyers, followers, supporters, backers. Anybody get the vibe over at FOX News? Not so pro-Trump these days, huh? Up is down and down is up. This is leading to a great demise later on this year, and I'm going to pull out another date here, so hang on. Pluto's here sitting in the 5th house, and again, I'm going to minimize this just a smidge and just say, it's going to be a bigger picture thing, but sitting in his 5th house simply means that he feels powerful with how creative and how snarky he's going to be. He's trying to control the dynamics, like, hey, no cameras in the courtroom, nobody can talk. The biggest fear that I would have if I was Donald Trump's lawyer right now is for him to shut the fuck up. When you're under indictment, you don't say a thing. This man can't not say a thing. He's the guy that gets pulled over. And by the way, can I absolutely thank the kind officer that let me know that I was going a little too fast down Highway 584 the other day. He was very nice. He was an exceptional officer. And when he pulled me over, I asked him how his grandmother was. I'm only kidding, I didn't. But he recognized me, and that was kind of cool. So thank you to the Florida state troopers. You were absolutely right. The conversation I was having in my head was not substantiated to the speed limit in which I was going. Thank you very much. Anyways, back to the show. And I did invite him to the Mount Shasta Retreat, which I think officers should do more. Law enforcement should definitely take a little more time. Anyways. So with this power base sitting in his 5th house is mean that he's really going to ramp up his BS. Just know that he feels like he can really do whatever he wants and how he wants. Now, the date I promised you earlier is May 9th. Why May 9th, Brandon? Well, this is April 4th. May 9th is about a month away. I don't know what day of the week it is, but it may in fact coincide maybe his next court date. The sun is going to be conjunct with Uranus here in the 9th house. By the way, the 9th house is also about travel. Uh-oh. By the way, he's going to be released on his own recognizance today, as he should be. I'm not entirely sure he should be, charged with a felony, to be honest with you. I think it's a little sculptory to go in there and say, we're going to ramp this up. He better be right. But when the sun moves into the 9th house and be conjunct with Uranus, I said it 100 times, is he a flight risk? The chart on that day is a flight risk. I'm just letting you know. Will he escape justice? Will he escape something? I'll tell you what, astrology knows what it's doing, right? Because that sun will be barreling hard into the 10th house. And when the sun's in the 10th house, justice is served, everybody. It's just the way it rolls. And for him, it's in the very hysterical Gemini. Like, come on. It's all coming back together now, isn't it, buddy? Because we'll bring up the other one here. By the way, this is the one that I showed earlier. Where's his sun? In the 10th house. When his sun becomes conjunct by the time his birthday, by the way, arguably what, 2.5, 2 months and a couple of weeks? Maybe he's supposed to be shown justice. By the way, Uranus doesn't go into his 10th house until another 8 months. But then it'll be headed towards his own Uranus return. Means he'll be 84 years old, 83 and some odd change. What are we looking at here? We're looking at somebody that has had opportunities to become who he's meant to be. And by the way, he's very good at being who he is. But is he who he's supposed to be? Sorry to be all existential with somebody who doesn't really care about any of this stuff, but it's truth. All right, guys, listen, thanks for giving me a few minutes here to talk about Trump. Like I said, we are going to be back with whiskey and bagels here in a couple of days. I have a full moon video that I'm prepping right now. I also have a few thoughts for my friends down there in Florida. I had a great time. I got a little picture show. I'm totally going to do the, and then I was on tour and I saw this and there. I had some of the best time. And by the way, I did it by myself, generally. I met great friends, but I really have gotten comfortable with being myself, by myself, with myself. It's a super important thing. I went through my Chiron return a couple of weeks ago, and I can only say this. I hope everybody goes through a Chiron return where they begin to recognize their own value. I wish this guy actually went through that. I wish he saw it for what it was. I wish he saw his opportunities. But instead, he's compiled so much crap and, ugh. Let's just hope we can save the country after this one. But I think it's really important so we can save the country. All right, guys, we're going to give the heart tap out. Friends down in Florida, to whatever legal team Mr. Trump has left, and to the DA to keep them safe through this whole thing. All right, guys, I'm going to give the heart taps to each other, love and care for each other, and remember, keep going. Thanks for tuning in for this Stream of Consciousness.